I am Thor, son of Odin, and as long as there is life in my breast, I am running out of things to say.
Great, another broken white boy for us to fix.
That's my secret, Cat.
I'm always angry.
You took everything from me.
I don't even know who you are. With great power comes great responsibility.
I can do this all day.
Wakanda forever!
Fam, as always, we have a very special guest in the spaceship. You already know when we bring someone up, they have to be legendary. And today is no different. Our guest worked in many different fields. She was a data scientist, a stand-up comedian, writer, a lot more. But you probably know them from a little show called Miss Marvel. So let's all welcome head writer of the hit Marvel series, Bisha K.
Yeah, wow, what an intro. Thank you so much. I'm hyped and I don't even like myself. Now I'm so that's delicious. Wow, never been so excited to be in a place introduced with such joy. Thank you. What a treat.
Aww.
Yes, we are ecstatic that you're here, very joyful that you're here. Thank you to our friends over at Loki who told you, hey man, come on the For All Nerds show, specifically Views from the 616.
No, my sweet friend Kate Herron kind of mentioned that you guys have been on talking about me and was like, but you should go and you should do this one, trust me, because I'm like, I try to be selective, try to protect my mental and my emotional energy, you know. And she was like, trust me, go and do it. And I was like, okay, so that's how we're here, because of a text message from Kate Herron.
Hey,
I heard it first. And I'm glad you mentioned about protecting mental health. We're going to have a question about that later. Mm-hmm. But before we get into all of that, before we get all the way into Miss Marvel, we have to go to your origins, your superhero origins. And specifically, how did you become what we call fam, right? For All Nerds actually stands for fan. So like, when did you first realize that you were, I guess, a member of the Geek Squad or part of the nerd team? I don't even know what the name of it at this point, but
I know what you mean. I think it's so interesting because when I was a kid, it wasn't the cool thing. Like it wasn't the socially acceptable.
Exactly.
Kind of, it didn't have pop culture dominance when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I was the like lonely kid in the library reading comic books that I shouldn't have been reading. Like that was my origin story. And I was really like, my parents are quite strict, so I was kind of an indoor kid. Like the concept of going out to play with your friends was not a thing in our house. So I was very much raised by TV and film and comics. And my mum was a comic book nerd. Like she was buying comic books, like DC comics in the 60s and the 70s in Pakistan. So like she was already a comic book nerd and kind of occupied that space in her own way. And then I was reading Preacher and Sandman, and like that was what I was reading in Hounslow Library when I was 10 years old for no good reason.
Those are heavy ones.
What?
That's a pretty heavy for a 10-year-old.
Who's checking though? The librarian? No. My parents? Oh, she's reading. That's a good thing. Who's in there? And my brother's the one handing this to me like, here, read this one. Don't tell anyone. So, you know, that was very much that journey of what is nerddom to you?
Yeah.
Kind of started really young, but I didn't really have a community around it. And I think that transformed over time, right? Like I'm also an internet kid. So the dawn of the internet and fandom internet that was kind of niche at the time, I was right there for it, especially gaming as well. I was on all these gaming forums and all these comic forums and all that stuff, like really early days. So that was my intro into nerdery. And it's so interesting to see kind of how that's exploded out and kind of how brilliant people like you have created this kind of this brilliant world around it that, man, I wish it existed when I was a kid, right? I think I would have felt a lot differently maybe about myself and about my interests if this existed today. So just thinking about the moment. What a good time to be alive. Yeah.
It would have made things way easier if this was happening when we were kids. So
100%.
Speaking of being a kid,
no,
okay, did you have a favorite cartoon when you were growing up?
Oh my gosh, I had a really weird. I mean, you know what I'm going to say, like X-Men for sure. But I loved Dexter's Lab when I was a kid. Dexter's Lab was the one, you know. I was a big Rugrats fan too, but Dexter's Lab is the one that kind of like sticks in my head as the one that was on most consistently. But again, I think I was watching movies I shouldn't have been watching, so my consumption was like. My mum had this thing because we kind of grew up between countries. Like I lived in Saudi Arabia for the school term in Riyadh, and then we were in Pakistan for the winter holiday, and then for like the summer break, we were in England where my grandma was. So it was like whenever we came back to England and they didn't really know what to do with us, and I didn't really know anybody. So they put me in front of the television, my mom would loved the original It TV adaptation.
Wow.
And I was like fully 9 years old. She's like, this is good. And so I'd be out here watching just horror movies that she loved. And they wouldn't send, they're like, if things were like slightly sexy on screen, then the channel got changed. But if someone's like full on dying or a child is bleeding blood into a bathroom, she's like, yeah, cool, watch it. So that was kind of the stuff I was watching way too like RoboCop. That movie is wild.
Me too.
Yeah, it's
super
really
early.
wild.
I'm so obsessed with that movie.
Oh my God, it's so
Alien
good.
too. So yeah, I was too young watching that stuff. So when you kind of the adrenaline of watching a program like that and then watching cartoons at the same time, it doesn't quite like it's Alien for me every time. Yeah,
I mean, I was the same. No, you kill me with It. I think I've told this story on the show before. I have a horror story because It came on TV, and then long story short, it involved me one night seeing a man hiding in a gutter and asking for help. And
you're lying.
Yes.
No, he's serious.
How old were you? What are you talking about? No, I genuinely feel like the bottom of my stomach just fell out of my body.
It does horrible. Every time I tell the story. It was like, okay, real quick, we're driving.
Take your time.
The show had just we're driving one night. I'm in the back of my best friend Andrew. He listens to the show. His father has a truck. It's legendary in Houston. Every kid rode in the back of this truck. We're in the back of the truck driving home to Andrew's house. We're on Ozark Street, which is a street in 3rd Ward, Houston, Texas. And it's this corner. I can't remember the name of the cross street right there. But right there at the corner, we see a little fire by the gutter. So Andrew's dad stops the truck and is like, boys, Dad, I'll put that fire out. So we hop out, walk over to the fire, and somebody's like, help me.
No. No, I mean, also help them. Sorry, like listeners can't see that I'm literally gripping my face. Yeah, you're telling the story. And so I feel physical, like my muscles are tense in my body. Please continue.
Me and Andrew probably, leapt 10 feet into the back of the truck again, and we're like, pull the out, like we're gone, like ain't no help. Ain't no help coming, fam. Like, and that was.
I'm sorry, I don't know how you got down there. I don't know why is there a fire down there.
I don't know how you're down there.
But I'm not addressing any of them.
There's so many questions right now. I think he said someone chased him down there or something. I can't remember all that.
How did he even?
You can barely fit into those things, It's like, especially as a grown man, like.
That's wild.
And it had just come on TV weeks before. Horrific. It was not a good time.
For me, the thing that kind of stuck out was like in my like grandmother's bathroom. It's like this really high up window. I had this like weird phobia of being alone. Not weird. I was a child and I was scared of noise. But there's like this window with the glass in the bathroom, because it's a bathroom, they kind of make the glass kind of mottled. So you can't like just look in and be like, hey, what's up when someone's naked. And so the glasses kind of distorted everything, but you could still see like colors and shapes through. So I would sometimes see like a flash of red and I was like, it's Pennywise. Like I would just, in my head, I was always watching that window for like just even a shadow of a shape or anybody walking past, and it would be kind of diffused through this like,
I see the image.
Horrible. Yeah,
that's terrifying.
Horrible. For years, I would think about that. And thanks, Mum. Yeah, thanks for showing me all these horror movies. You really too. Yeah. No, it just stuck in the mind. That part one of that is just so horrific.
Oh my God, yeah. I've watched it recently and I was crying, laughing at most of it. But there are parts of it that are still so scary. Like it's still so well done.
It's also in your sense memory. Like for me, because of the time and the age at which I was watching it, it's just in like. Yeah, I feel like you have a physical remembrance sometimes when you're reliving something you watched at that age. And so even just talking about that shower thing now, I'm like, oh, why did I bring that up? Because
me too. I'm like, why did I tell that story?
Well, I mean, because
my living room's got so much.
It's not how you start this show.
No, but you know why? It came up because we're recounting your origins or who you are now, right?
I just want to talk about movies I like.
Like, apparently, you have a horror background that you did not realize how deep it went.
So deep. Yeah,
you mentioned
that was all kind of part of the nerdery of it, right? It was horror genre, reading comics, reading books, reading movies, reading television, and also there's lots of influences because we lived in like different countries at such a kind of formative age. I was also watching like ZTV and Sony TV, which is all kind of channels from Pakistan and India, and kind of that's also an influence that existed. My mum was always watching Bollywood movies too. Like that's her version of what romance things you could watch. That I was kind of watching with permission, not sneaking to look at. So all of this was this big kind of pot of different influences in terms of storytelling and what that could be. But yeah, so nerdery fast forward. I guess in 2014 is when I first picked up Miss Marvel, the comic book. But long before I was a television writer, and then fast forward another 5 years from that, and that comic book is kind of classic, but also completely new, and really had so many incredible elements throughout it, from down to like in jokes in the backgrounds of Cell. So it just, I just remember feeling so viscerally moved when I picked up that comic, the issue 1. And then fast forward 5 years, I'm working at Marvel Studios, and I was like, I got to put myself out there. I got to chase this, and that's the very short version. I feel like I did it shorter than you did your story of seeing the guy in the drain, which I'm really impressed by.
When you say it like that, it's actually pretty hilarious. The guy in the drain.
It sounds
less scary.
But also now I'm like, you guys should have probably helped that guy. Like, that sounds like he was in a
probably, but at the same time, like, the movie had just come out, fam. It's just, no. And I already hated clowns.
Yeah, for real. I don't know. I can't understand I can't understand the history of clowns and why. Like, I have so many questions about culture when it comes to clowns.
Well, I have a question, because you're very funny, Bisha. Like, I don't know, I don't even think you're trying, and you're just you're hilarious. And
I'm already on the podcast. Stop trying to get stuff from me. Like,
no, we're gonna save a seat for you, because like now you're on the podcast. Now you're part of the crew now. But we learned that you did some stand-up comedy. Is this true? And why? And where's the video? Where's the video?
I'm such a fan of
I'm a
stand-up.
smart lady. There's no videos. There's some private links I used to send to bookers so that then I could get booked. I love like the immediacy of stand-up. I think that was what was so thrilling about it for me, that you could write something on the way onto the stage and then try it immediately, and then pretty fast if it's landing or not landing. And I think that kind of adrenaline hit is something you don't really get in kind of the medium that I'm in now. And that's the bit of stand-up that I miss, is just kind of just having that communion with an audience, and also like winning around an audience that doesn't like you was always my favorite thing. But after kind of the goal always for me was to write television and film and to direct television and film. And so and I love stand-up in its own right, as its own art form. I don't think I can be called a stand-up anymore. I haven't done it since I moved to LA, which was 4 years ago, and subsequently moved back to London. I just haven't done it in 4 years because I've been too busy doing all this thing. So
I think you can still call yourself a stand-up. Doing it for 8 years, that's serious.
No, I don't think so. I think like, because most of my friends are stand-up, I'm married to one, I'm like, no, I don't get to. It's rude. It's rude that anybody still calls me a stand-up. So there's no way.
You're still good on comedy.
Yes.
You're very sweet. Thank you.
Okay, now one of the things, speaking of Miss Marvel, that we love so much about it is that there's so many different viewpoints from voices that we really just don't get to see on screen that often, right? And we just want to know how important was that to you to present all these different viewpoints, especially or even when they contradicted your own?
Yeah.
What a great question. I think what was interesting is in the writers' room, specifically the Pakistani Americans with very different backgrounds, whether those were religious backgrounds or whether they were from where they were culturally, different parts of the country in terms of America they grew up in, different parts of Pakistan that they were from, and where their family backgrounds were, and also perspective-wise. So I think the term diversity is used in a certain way. I'm not going to use it in that way. I'm going to use it specific to our room, in that our experiences among, like, I think broadly looking at the room, people are like, oh, it's a very diverse room. I'm like, yeah, but in ways I don't think you even understand when you say that, because there's so much points of difference between each of us that when we're kind of coming to any particular idea that specifically pertain to a religious element or to a cultural element or to like what your childhood like house was like, what it was like growing up as a second generation American, a second generation immigrant in America, there was such different voices in the room, and sometimes two voices would be completely polarized, would be so opposite ends of the spectrum, that I was like, okay, so therefore I think a good measure of this is going to pass muster for me is if I can somehow satisfy both these completely opposite sides of the coin. And so everything was going through this really rather rigorous test. Everything that we're putting on was coming from, like, there's some things that we immediately all agreed on. Like, definitely there's a shoe thief at the mosque. Like, every mosque from, like, I've been to like so many different countries, there's one at everyone. We know it. So that kind of stuff felt like simple and easy and natural. Some of the kind of larger points of should we include this, should we include that? And I'm not going to all the like details of it because
Yeah.
I think that was really personal for all of the writers. That was from a place of, okay, how do we navigate this when people feel so strongly and passionately about where they're coming from? And I really want to make everybody here feel listened to. And that kind of, I think, was the magic of our little bubble that I feel really proud of, having been able to facilitate that these people would trust me enough to be able to be true and like honor how they feel and say it, because this is a work environment. We're in a corporate building and I've created a space where they feel like they can be vulnerable with me and there will be no blowback. In fact, I want them to do that. And so that for me is, I think, one of the things I'm most proud of in that process is creating that space for the writers to like we dug deep into ourselves for this show, guys. Like it was very personal and we all had to be really brave. And I'm just so proud of each of them.
Yeah.
For kind of doing what they did in that room.
Yeah, it's very apparent that this is deeply personal for everyone who's involved. It was deeply personal, it's deeply personal experience. I mean, on our show on Views from 616, like we break down all the Easter eggs, the comic book references, and all that stuff. But our main point, like the meat of our show, is how we examine how the creative team approaches these shows or movies or whatever, and all the underlying themes. So that's where we want people to focus on. So we picked up on. I mean,
what we're putting down. Yeah,
we picked up what you were putting down for the best of our abilities. Okay.
Yeah.
But,
I value you. I see you. I appreciate you.
Yeah. I'm hip.
Right. And
I don't know. I don't know how it feels to be hip anymore. I just kind of plod through the day and hope I survive. So don't worry about it.
So when, even besides just Miss Marvel, but like just like, as a creator, how do you craft stories? Like, what's your process? Do you start with your themes first and build out from there? Even in Miss Marvel, did you have certain characters you focused on and the stories you want to tell within those characters?
Yeah, so in terms of adapting, I said that weird. In terms of adapting something that already exists, like the comic books here, I always think about what's the difference between these mediums as well. So what is it that television can do that the comic books can't? What is it comic books can do that a television adaptation can't? Because they're two different mediums that are incredibly popular for a reason. They can do different things for people. So that's one thing I think about when I'm talking about adaptation. I'm not specifically talking about Miss Marvel in this, but kind of broadly, just in that sentence. And then also thinking about how in this show, in terms of it exists inside a decades-long web of storytelling done by forces greater than I, that exists already in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So how do we plug into that, but also have a really unique voice to it, have a really unique feel to this, have a really specific journey for all of our viewers to go on that feels unique to this character. And the character was the most important thing to me. It's this character of Kamala Khan from the comics. How do we bring her to life? And how do we give her a character arc that gets her ready for that big old web of storytelling that, again, is created by forces larger than I? So that was always part of my understanding of this is how it's going to have to fit in. This is the piece that I'm starting with. And this is now we've got to figure out what that journey is. How do we get her match ready? So in terms of any show that I would be writing, whether it's this one or any other one in terms of process, for me, it really starts with ideation. So just all the things I'm excited about. If I'm doing that bit by myself before the show's been sold, for example, or if I'm doing that with a writer's room, as we were kind of with, to some extent, with Miss Marvel, it's just one of the first questions I ask every writer in the room is, what is your highest ambition for this show and what you want to say with this show? And what is your greatest fear for what we could accidentally say? And I mean that not just, obviously every artist's biggest fear is we're going to fuck up and do a bad job. Like, yeah, sure. Once we get beyond that, that's natural. That's kind of a human fear. I mean, creatively, in terms of storytelling, what's your biggest fear for how could this be misinterpreted, or how this could disappoint the viewer, or how it could disappoint us, the creators? Let's start from there. So we're looking at both those kind of ambitions and our fears. And I think also opening the room that way I think it connects you in a really very quickly, because we share similar fears. Often you have similar ambitions. Often there's different, other people's ambitions really inspire you. And I think that's such a quick way of opening people up and saying, we're in this together, let's do this. So that's how I like to start the process. And I'm also very much a person who likes to, the physical act of moving my hand to write something. I like to write loads of things by hand, is very connect my body and my brain. So even if I'm thinking of an idea that's I'm literally imitating doing it right now, but if I'm thinking of an idea that's this story beat happens, I'll write it and just toss it up on the wall, even if it's nonsense. And I'll get, so as we're having those conversations, there's something sticking out to me that I'm I keep coming back to this idea someone just said a few minutes ago, write it, stick it on the wall. And to the extent that it's slightly unhinged, the walls of that conference room for Miss Marvel were covered in, I have one right here, in index cards just of different colors, just nonsense, just full on like
I love it.
the Charlie Day meme of like just just these index cards everywhere. And then slowly over the course of that starts to get refined, and I start to break the arc of the whole episode. So Kamala's journey, and then every single character's journey, both for themselves over those 6 episodes or however many episodes if it was a different show, relative to themselves, but then also what is their arc of the relationship with every other different character. So you've got just threads and threads and threads and threads all over these walls. And then we're kind of breaking into the scene work. Then I'm breaking it, especially if it's something that's kind of in the hour-long space, breaking an episode in 5 acts. So once you've got those big arcs, then we're breaking it. How do we manifest this? How do we manifest these character changes? And then it's just rewriting until my eyes bleed. So that's generally my approach, and it's pretty much the approach we took with it's very like a bare bones version of the approach that I took with Miss Marvel as well.
Right. Well, it worked. To say the least, it worked to great effect, because this is the highest rated show, according to many different places, but this is the highest rated Marvel show in general, and it's well deserved. Like, so congratulations. I just wanted to say that. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. You're very sweet. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, and also that was really great advice, because I've worked in rooms and I've never heard someone open it like that, and that's just a really great way to open a room. So, everybody out there listening, take that one, because that is gold right there.
I think it also depends on what kind of team it is, what kind of show it is, what kind of, like, I don't know if this one, it felt really important to open it that way. If it was something where like the pilot was like, if it's had like 3 rounds of development and then we've already got a second episode and then we're doing it, your mileage may vary, as they say.
Yeah.
It took me so long to understand what YMMV was and like commit it to memory, what that meant. I was like, just use the phrase. Anyway, one's mileage may vary on process, but I felt like the right thing to do for this one. And also, beginnings are hard. Like, openings are hard. These people haven't worked together before. Some of them may have met before, and it's like you have to quickly build a creative community. And you have to quickly build creative trust. You have to be able to build a space where you can say no to each other, and you should all feel comfortable and respectful about it. And that's really important to me. That I'm just not into some of this toxic shit that you hear about. Like, I'm just life is so short. It just has to be joyful for us to be in the job that we're in. Like, we're so lucky, so let it be joyful, because creativity is play. So that's something that I really strongly advocate for, full stop.
I love it. Well, you were surrounded by, well, there were some people who are American Pakistani. There are some people, whoever, but the point is, it was dominated by people with Pakistani backgrounds. And then you being British Pakistani, as you were going through this writing process, were there any American Pakistani elements that were actually new to you, or maybe even surprising during the process?
I'm not sure about new or surprising, only because we just kind of all talk. And I also have quite a bit of Canadian American family who kind of, so at the times that I visited them in Toronto, both British way of saying Toronto, I've kind of been part of their community. So none of it seemed like new or surprising to me. I think some of the very specific stories that people had, again, they're so personal. I don't feel like comfortable that I could share them on their behalf, or it's less about what it says about the community, more about like, you did that, right? that was really entertaining. Kind of sharing those kinds of stories. Like, okay, hence someone's inspired the mini Harami girls. Let's just put it that way. And so there's all kinds of stuff like that. That's really that's less about kind of generalizations about what all those different experiences are, and more like the kind of beauty of individual experience that we get to put into this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was something, because we talked about that, how relatable it was even to people who weren't, American Pakistani or any of that, because I come from a Southern Black Baptist background, and all of those elements would be at my church. They would have different names, but the little Harami girls, I was like,
we saw the Harami girls.
I know them. Like, So it was just
the Dean Boys, all that other stuff.
All that, it's all just different words and names for it, but it's so relatable on so many different levels. So, thank you.
Brilliant. I think one thing that I found that I really loved in the response was every kind of immigrant community and every kind of loads of groups from with a background of like people of color, from historically marginalized groups, especially in America, every single one of them is like, yeah, we have the Illuminantes. Like for
Yes.
Yes.
they
What?
exist, they are real.
Yes.
And I was
I'm
like,
so
yes.
I'm so pleased you came up with or you guys came up with a name for this group. I mean, I don't know if that was your idea or was it?
It was Sabir Pirzada, one of our writers.
Okay.
That's the
Gold.
Sabir Pirzada original. Because once he wrote that, I was like, Sabir, yeah. Because we talked about the groups. We hadn't, like in the room, we were pitching different ideas of like, because that sequence was written as kind of a fun, playful homage to Mean Girls as well, but also a way of like, oh, here's a piece of media that you have in your head that's like in a lot of our viewers' bones, and how then we can use that as a tool to introduce you to like, okay, and here's our space, here's our community, here are our people. So we're really excited by that, by using that kind of that way in, but we also had so much fun like pitching ideas for all the different group names that we could have, and we were discussing like, man, the Moss Bros, like, why do they all have sports cars? Where are they getting that money from? Like, those are conversations we had, and immediately, like, Fatima was like, yes, how are the Moss Bros getting it? And it's so funny that we all immediately understood what those groups are and what those types are. And it's said from a loving place, like, there's no judgment in it. There's just like, yep, these are the people that we have in our heart and that exist. So, yeah, I think that's resonated with so many different communities, and it's really cool to see.
Okay, now we were talking about Easter eggs and stuff before, and there's something that we noticed that we didn't feel anyone else noticed.
Yep.
But by the end of the series, it wasn't explicitly answered. So we want to ask you this now.
Okay, I'm scared. I'm nervous.
Is the Majid shoot thief the little boy that she dropped?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
He's the shoe thief.
Thank you.
Literally, okay, go back. He's literally wearing the shoes.
The shoes. Look, we have a whole video.
We're not hiding it. He's wearing the shoes.
And y'all zoomed in on it too much. And we have a whole video. Yeah. No one else. I scoured the internet looking for someone talking about this every other review.
There's
no
one
one.
woman who tweeted about it, and I just kind of sent her a winky emoji.
Well, I will send you the video because we had video day of the show. I was like, listen, this little boy is rocking her shoes.
Firstly, originally, he was convinced by the Moss Bros to go up there as like a prank. That didn't play out. We also kind of were moving into that idea of the use of social media and how that kind of what that has to say in our community and how young people use it. So I think we landed on the better thing. But the shoe thief of it all was like, yeah, Hamid was always the shoe thief. Like always, from day one, from his conception.
You should have saw Ben. He was like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's like pointing at the screen. He's just like, that's the one. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh my God, that is him. Okay, good. Thank you. We just wanted to make sure. And also, I guess that boy is never going to get his comeuppance, all right? Because he's been...
Kid broke his leg. Come on.
I mean, he got dropped.
That was the comeuppance.
He got dropped. He got dropped.
And then mention it at the end.
It's so, I love that about that episode. I love that sequence because it's so funny to me. Like the joy, like the elation of like, yeah, she did it, to like, oh God, this couldn't have gone any worse by the end. It's such a delight.
I wanted to see where Nakia is like, you got my shoes on, like when he's screaming about his ankle and stuff, and she's like,
wanted her to cuss him out so bad.
There was a joke about it at one point, very early days in the script that never got shot, but yes, something similar happened. Of like, he deserved it because he was the shoe thief.
Yeah,
I had a whole PR spin.
It existed. So
yeah,
you need to listen to his PR spin. It's actually
I'm gonna send you the link because I have a whole spin. I was representing for Miss Marvel on that one.
I love you guys.
For breaking his legs for stealing shoes.
It's a big old.
Hey, shoes are important, fam. And
also those shoes.
Yeah, they were so fly.
Versace.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where Nakia's getting her income from. I have questions of my own, but
we all did.
Nakia, we love her. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, now since we got to that, we also have some, a slightly more serious side to this.
Very more serious,
right? And this was something that, we were blown away. Yeah. Like, the bravery, just the heart, everything behind this. And you included a partition story in the show. And considering the divisive history between Pakistan and India, and we all know, and that was something else. I was from the first episode when you were like, oh, the British are, I was just like, thank you.
Thank you, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah,
right. And you've said before in previous interviews that, you didn't expect a lot of people, non-Pakistani background to know about partition. I had no clue. I had absolutely no clue. So
I have no recollection of learning about it in school in England.
Wow. I should be surprised.
We were talking about the East India
not.
Company, which was kind of the extractive force.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Some real good propaganda. Some real good salesmanship there.
It always is.
There's a thing in England where there was like, when we kind of talk about the history of colonialism, sometimes they talk about with India where they say like, well, we built the trains. We built your train system. I was like, yeah, to rob us. Like you built the trains to take the things you wanted and
out of the country.
What do you mean we built the trains? Like, we gave you what?
Yeah.
that's something that always makes me kind of blows my mind. But certainly in school I don't remember learning or being taught about that element. And yet at home you have these conversations where we learned about Lord Mountbatten at school. And he's kind of like in some ways in England, to some degree, like a lauded figure. Like this, I remember I once applied for this scheme when I was just before uni that was like, spend a year in the US for like people from the UK. And I was like, I'm going to apply for this and I live in New York for like a summer. And it was called the Mountbatten program or something like that.
Yeah,
and
I know that program.
So my experience of Mountbatten was my parents like saying his name with hurt and rage in their voice. And like, because this guy just was part of destroying and causing so much decimation. So this kind of disconnect between what you're learning in school and what is kind of what the culture you're living in is telling you about these names and these historical figures, and what your mum and dad are experiencing, or what's kind of being passed down through, like you're listening to the uncles talking and you can hear some of their conversation, you're getting snippets of it. And the conversations weren't really, I don't know that we had those conversations that went down the generations, right? Because I think part of immigration, for whether it's for survival or for whatever reason, it builds these kind of walls around what we discuss and what we can talk about, and what feels comfortable and what feels safe and what feels like I don't want to talk about it because it hurts too much, or I don't want to talk about it because I don't fully understand it. And that's kind of part of what we wanted to address. That so many of the conversations go unspoken for lifetimes, and the fantasy of it for some of us in the writers, and certainly for me, was what if we did just bear witness to each other? Like what if we did make space to bear witness to each other? And it's not that long ago. Like it's literally my mother's grandmother. That's how long ago we're talking. We're talking 1947, and the ripples of that and the conflict of that continues on today. So yes, I think the politics of it all is incredibly it's so complicated. There's no way we could get across the politics of it all. But I hope really above all that, and I think it's what comes through, is we're not talking about the wider politics of it all in that much detail. What we're really talking about is empathy for the pain that this moment caused, not just for this family that we're seeing, but we love this family, so we're like with them, we feel their pain. And you can apply that to every single person who was affected by Partition, whether it's going from what is now India to what is now Pakistan, or if it was a journey for somebody who was Hindu, for example, going in the other direction. I hope that this story you can still feel it's the same pain. It's the trauma is there for them as well. So we're really mindful of, we're not pointing fingers, we're not getting into that. We're talking about the pain of this and bearing witness to our own stories, rather than getting caught up in the stories of others. So yes, it was scary and hard, but it felt so visceral to all of us that we knew that this is what we wanted to pursue.
Yeah, and it did come out as exactly how you're saying. Like, it didn't feel like you were pointing fingers or saying you were bad because you did this. It was just you were expressing what people went through, and you were expressing, you were educating
millions.
Yeah, you're educating, honestly, millions of people at this point on a whole historical event that has occurred that has, to your point, implications to this day. Me growing up in New York, I had Pakistani American neighbors, and that was like second gen, same situation. Second gen immigrants were my friends, but I've always heard about the anger and the hurt between them and Indian colleagues and things like that, and I never understood why. So I grew up knowing that there was something up, but not knowing why. So to have some of those blanks at least filled a little bit by you, and because that you introduced it, it made me go and do the research. It made me go and read more, listen, watch. And I hope that that's what other people have done too. And that's why I had said, the clip that you listened to, I had said what I said about y'all need to read, because it's just like Bisha and team is telling you about something that you probably had no idea even existed. And that just kind of leads me to my next question to you. Like, because you're a person of color and because this is such a highly cultural, highly personal story, what we tend to see happen with stories, even if they're sci-fi, whatever, if there's a person of color involved at the top, it's like you have like double, sometimes triple duty. Like you have to tell like the base story, but then it's almost like you also got to tell your cultural background, and you got to represent for your people, and you got to be perfect. And I wonder, like, do you feel that? And and there's probably you answer it with the laugh, but like, how do you manage that?
I don't know. I wish I had a good answer for that. I think the thing that so there's kind of two big things to say about that is that I think there's this thirst and this hunger for representation.
Yeah.
But it's coming from a place of lack, which is right. We've had a severe lack of representation. But the problem, which is not our problem, but the problem that there's been foisted upon us, is that then it puts pressure for one thing to represent everything. And we're talking about Muslim representation, we're talking about people of color. Like, this show doesn't represent every single person of color. Are you what? The global majority of human beings? Right. No, it does not. Like, we can't also represent billions of Muslims in one story. Like, what are you talking about? I'm in space, you know? So the thing that I always am searching for and that I'm kind of striving towards is understanding that pressure, understanding that hunger and that desire, because my God, we are thirsty and we like deserve water. We deserve water as much as anybody else. So I completely understand and empathize with that. And I can hold that in my heart and in my hand and say that exists. At the same time, I'm so lucky to have the job that I have and to be on the career track that I am, that I can create stories. So I have to be able to also hold that in one hand and hold in the other hand that I'm individual. I represent me. And even the final piece of work that goes out isn't fully all of me too. I'm not my work. I'm more than that. I'm a human in full bloom. So at the same time, I've got to be able to tell stories the way that I want to, the way that I want to feel about, like, what I want to say about the world. And I think in the case of kind of the collision of the Myth Marvel with what I'm talking about right now is we decided to go and overtly into the specific. So as specific as possible every step of the way, because she is Muslim, she's also Pakistani, she's also living in Jersey City, she's also a teenage girl, she also happens to get superpowers. All those things that are very, very specific to her, the more specific we get, the more people can relate to it, but also not feel like I'm being misrepresented because you're not. Like, she's just one of many. And the goal is, with a show like this on the scale that it's at, hopefully we can open doors for more stories so that we're not always looking to one to represent everything. There's a freedom and ubiquity, and that's really what I'd like to change and be part of changing for kind of every project that I do going forward. Let's open more doors for more creators to tell their stories from backgrounds that are historically marginalized. So that was really important. Like, I'll give an example that's so wildly specific. That's like in Amir and Taisha's wedding, they have the wedding at the masjid where, you know, they say their I do's 3 times each. Even the way of doing that is specific to their culture as well. Yeah. As we then kind of go into the ceremonies and what takes place at the reception hall before the clandestines come and are like, guys, we're here. Before that sequence, the scene where Ruby Auntie's explaining to Bruno we call it a rasam, I keep forgetting the word, a ceremony where they're kind of knocking their heads together. Yeah. And she's like, well, it means this, but also it's good fun too. That is so specific that it's specifically from the region of Pakistan that I specifically am from. It's not even like a Pakistan-wide thing. So we're going so specific that we're like, if you relate to it, cool. If you don't, you understand the moment from that explanation with Bruno and Auntie Ruby. But that's what is exciting to me about being able to tell the specific stories that I care about and going into those granular details. That's the level of specificity we're at. And that was always our intention, to go above and beyond, to be unique and specific to this family and this character, rather than we're going to represent everybody. It's impossible. It's an impossible task, and I refuse to be handed that task.
Say it.
A word.
A word. And you also said another word during this, because just last night I was having a conversation with my partner, Mellow Marketer. He's a writer as well. He's working on a big series right now. And me and him are going through the same thing where we're doubting our value as human beings, because we're putting in work that is especially for him, he's working on a series that is great and everything, but it's not, it's a series. So it's like, you got to deal with a lot with that. And I'm at the point where I'm like, am I, because I'm writing a new pilot and I'm like, oh, I'm terrible. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm never going to work again.
It helps. I feel that forever until the end of.
I know we all do. And so that's my question. And also, I just want to thank you, because he said that last night and it really bothered me. He was like, yo, man, I'm just trying to figure out, what's my value as a person? Because this work is really, eating me alive, where it's like, this is not my value as a person.
Job.
Yes.
It's a hard job. Even if we take away all the elements we're discussing, making it stuff is so much harder than anyone could ever imagine. And then add in everything that we're talking about. And also, I think and this isn't about Miss Marvel, this is kind of me speaking more generally, more broadly, is that as more of these stories come up, I think sometimes we may be asked to racialize ourselves in ways that it's not fair, man. It's not fair what you're asking of me. And I think that's something that I've been thinking a lot about recently is exactly that, is that I'm more than a projection of other people's hopes or their fears. I'm a person, and who is that person, and how do I get to tell those stories? And I think, just what you're saying is really resonating with me in terms of what I've been thinking about too. It's like, I've forgotten what it is to be a person sometimes, because sometimes am I excavating myself because I want to tell this story, or because I feel like this is going to work as a show and I'm excited to share it, or like, how am I approaching this? And
you're hitting home.
So I'm putting some like big old guardrails around myself, kind of going forward, especially of like, I'm doing this because I want to say something. And I've always been that way. I'm doing this because I want to say something. And I'm also very mindful of who I work with, like who that team is going to be around you and who's going to understand that and can share this language that we're sharing right now. I think all those things are really important this kind of just TV and film more generally that I'm talking about. Yeah.
It's so great hearing that from you, because, like I'm not, at any level at all where I can even say that. But at the same time, I just have a strong moral code where I'm like, I don't need it if it's not something that I want to do. I will figure out other ways to live.
Stick to that, please. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I have to, because
it's impossible. That's the thing as well. It's like, I find it so hard to act out. I don't know how to phrase this in any other way that isn't really earnest. Like, I find it very hard to act outside of my integrity, where I'm like, yes, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not doing the thing you like. I just can't. I just cannot. And it eats me up. And I'll spend so much of myself time like ruminating on like something like that. So it's really important to, for me at least, it's just really important to trust myself and not see that as a negative about who I am and about my creative process, but actually it is when you ask like, who am I, what's my value, that's part of your value, is trusting your integrity, I think. So 3 years of therapy later, here we are.
Well, this is good therapy for everyone listening, so thank you.
Yeah. Ben, you wanted to ask her a question about mental health?
No, that was it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was pretty much it. It was like, how do you deal with the stresses that come with this job, and especially being a head writer is like,
Thank you. Can you say that louder about therapy?
Therapy, go and get it. Everybody. I think, and there's not a fix all for everything. You have to also be thinking about these things and open to these conversations, these changes. But I think, kind of what you just asked about, how do you deal with the pressure of things? And again, this isn't about what, because I've also worked on other stuff since and during. And I think the thing that I said a little bit earlier, of that I am not my work, that I think sometimes we get so caught up in that, that, and it's also part of the mythos of an artist, right? Of like, the art, your work is everything and it's who you are. It's like, well, no, I'm also the person who plays with my dog. I'm also the person who like looks at her husband and thinks, oh my god, I'm so lucky. And I'm also the person who like is just so happy to have like a shitty little garden. Like, that's also who I am. That's nothing to do, like, I'm not that, nor am I people's perception of my work. No one knows who I am aside from me and the people closest to me in my entirety, in my fullness. And that is something that I could express elements of in my art, sure, but it's being able to extract those things and that allows you to keep your guardrails safe. It also allows you to breathe, and it also allows you to kind of take the pressure of like, it's also like, I mean, really the wider conversation we're having here that's like whispering in my head is like, we're talking about capitalism, like art under capitalism, being a human under capitalism. How are we going to do that? How do we live in this world that is like trying to crush all of us?
Yes.
That's a much bigger conversation. So how do we like deal with the pressures of existing? Like, life is increasingly hard for people, and I'm on the very, very lucky end of that spectrum. So in another sense, kind of the perspective that I get from that is like, not to invalidate my own feelings, but also like, I'm so lucky, and how can I be part of making life better for other people is something that I think about too, because I feel like I don't operate enough in that way that I wish I was. So I don't know. I kind of went onto a spiral, but I hope that touches on the themes of the question.
No, absolutely. I mean, it touches on the themes of the question. It touches on how you all formulated and did the framework for the show itself. I mean, you see therapy and everything that you talked about within the show itself. Like the 4 generations of women, and then the 3 generations of women have how they're healing amongst themselves and dealing with all the intergenerational trauma and actually talking through it. That's the part that everyone misses, right? No one wants to talk through things.
Yes. And it's hard to reveal of yourself. And you can see really with Aisha, Sana, and Muniba, you can see what happened to Aisha, the mystery of what happened to her, the impact on Sana, that she was obsessed with her self-expression about it, right? There's artwork all over her place, to the extent that it pushed Muniba away. Muniba, then I don't want to talk about it actually, because it's just haunted me this whole time. And then immediately how that affects Muniba and Kamala's relationship. So you can see, we went out of our way to make it clear that you can see that Kamala goes up the chain and she can see the way that's impacted every single one of these women. And I'm kind of also always want to shout out Fatima Asghar on that, because we had so many. She was one of the writers in the writers' room. She's incredible, and Sabir Pirzada and Aisha Buri, and we had so many conversations about what does that look like? What does looking at that look like? And Kamala's powers are literally solidified light, right? There's hard light, groundbreaking, as Bruno puts it. But it's literally shining a light on something. She's the one who brings her light to her own family, and I think that was. I don't know if we could have made that any more obvious.
So for everyone who was upset about the powers change, there's actually thematic elements behind it.
Yeah, there's actually reason and understanding.
I understand why people. I get it, but that was the job that was handed. So here we go.
But it's also wait and see, right? Like, oh, I'm upset. Like, well, wait and see how this goes and why the change was made.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, cool. Like, live your lives, That's kind of. I have to be able to say that, because I think otherwise I'd fixate and I'd ruminate on well, maybe I was wrong because of la-di-da. Like, maybe I was. But, I'm really proud of the story we told. I'm really proud of what it means and what it means for the character. That's the most important thing to me.
Yeah. And now we have gotten out of, because we had a delay in recording this, we did get to see the final episode. And speaking of changes from the comics, there was a
little sweet treat.
Yeah, just a quick little drop. And the crazy thing is, one of our listeners, I can't remember their name to shout them right now, but I will on the next episode. They DM'd me the day before and was like, yo, what if Marvel is dropping mutants into this? I was like, what is this man talking about? And then lo and behold,
I think your genes have a mutation.
Yeah.
And then the X-Men song in the back. Come on.
How wild. Like, I just can't even. I know I made this show, but I'm still like, I think also because I think that visceral nostalgia of that song, that cue, it just really gets you in the heart, especially for a certain generation too. I think you're just like, really? Did that just happen? We've been fun watching some of the reaction videos. People are like eyes popping straight out of their heads and like pointing at their headphones. Like, did I just hear that? I'm like, yes, you did. Yes, you did, buddy. It's really, it's absolutely thrilling.
It's iconic. It really is. Truly.
I was doing the Charlie Day immediately, so I was like, so the Marvels movie is actually saying the Mutants movie. It's not the Marvels they're talking about. It's the actual Mutants.
Yeah. I'm in a very lucky position where I do not know if that's true or not. So I can
don't worry, we're not gonna ask.
Roll with it. Go for it. I have no idea.
We're not gonna ask. I'll go with it.
Yeah.
I have a whole shoe thief.
You got it. You've got your eyes open. I like that.
We're paying attention here. But as this legend of Miss Marvel continues to grow, and Kamala, and we get into the MCU deeper and further, what are your hopes for where her story is going to take her?
I don't know. Anywhere that Kamala wants to go. I guess Bisha headcanon, like my dream for her. Yeah. And this is, again, if you haven't seen it on screen, then it doesn't count. It's not real. It's not Marvel. Yeah. It's not Marvel canon. So let's just caveat that. But I'd say for me, she's got this natural, the character and our actress, it's got this natural charisma and this radiance to her. And I think she's going to make an incredible leader. And I think her powers of empathy and her power, the older listen first, fight second, would make her a really good leader. So like in Bisha Fantasyland, like if she's like captain of the Young Avengers, she's like out here leading this new generation of heroes. That's what I want to see for her. I think it's really natural. I think it's a really natural evolution from I think almost she would be almost the bridge between kind of the Captain Marvel generation and the new generation. She could be that interlink. So that's what I hope for her going forward. And I just wish her. I want to see a Red Dagger spinoff. Like
that'd be cool.
I just want to see them parkouring around Pakistan. That's just my dream. So there's so many great characters in this show, and I really hope they go on to live a really long life in the MCU.
Yeah. And Iman Vellani herself, like we feel she embodies everything you could have ever asked for in a Miss Marvel. Like brilliant in every scene and every emotion. She speaks when she's not even speaking, she's speaking. And I personally, I just feel she's going to elevate to the point where you can't see her as anybody else. Like similar to how like RDJ, he's synonymous with Iron Man, Tony Stark. I feel that way with Iman. I'm like, she's Miss Marvel. She's Kamala.
She is Miss Marvel, 100%. And look, I hope, and some kind of also on the other hand of that, like if Iman Vellani as a human would like to go and do other things, like I just want her to have all her dreams.
Oh yes. But I think she'll be able to do anything. And I even, like I said it earlier, I love the Young Avengers, but I just see her as the leader of the Avengers in the long run. Like,
But hang on. Wait, when Young Avengers grow up, what do they become? Like the young comes
Avengers.
up. They're the
old Avengers? No, they come the Avengers.
No, the Young Avengers, the old Avengers.
How you doing, fellow kids? Avengers.
I'd love to see that. The Buscemi Avengers. That's what I came to do. No, I hear exactly what you're saying, and I think what's so exciting about the show is that we've got viewers who have grown up on all of the Avengers, just as Kamala has, and so there's a unique connection that our viewers can have with Kamala, in that we share that. Like the kids watching it now grew up on those movies, and now they're just as excited as Kamala is to be part of that world. And I think for a number of reasons, I think she's also going to be the one I hope that she will be the one to lead audiences into whatever this next generation is of what the Avengers and the Marvel Universe looks like.
Absolutely.
Okay, but all right, we are about to get into our rapid fire, but I do have to ask you this, because we figured out the shoe thief. Was there something else that no one else has figured out yet that you would, like to let us know?
I don't know. People will figure out everything, man. People are like making connections I don't even see. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, look at this Easter egg. This connects to this thing. It's like, does it? Okay.
You sound like Jordan Peele with Get Out. He was like, that didn't mean anything. I just thought it was cool.
I'm like, if you say so, yeah, you're right. I am a genius. Like, okay. Like, I don't know. So no, there's nothing that I can see. And also people are so thorough, because which what I love about the fans. They love the MCU. They love this so much. It brings them so much joy. And there's nothing that I can think of they missed. I really love that Charmaine put in a literal like barrel of Easter eggs. I don't know if you guys caught that like in episode 4, one of the things that gets knocked over in episode 4 during the kind of the
chase,
the big sequence at the end of that, in that big sequence in Karachi with the truck and the rickshaw and all of that, there's like a crate that gets knocked over, and literally the crate is full of actual Easter eggs. So that was her little joke. But she's like, I've got so many Easter eggs for you guys. She knocks over a crate of Easter eggs. And I was like, Charming. Like, somehow like Easter egg pun work. Very good.
That I'm a big fan of terrible puns, so that's right there with them. Big fan. Yeah.
No, it's great. It's absolutely wonderful. So it's nothing that I can see that people haven't picked up on. You've all picked up exactly what we're putting down, one way or another.
Okay.
I'll have one, but go ahead, Ben.
All right. Well, you survived the interview segment, but
I thrived through this interview.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Let them know. I
didn't realize we were going into a combative situation. I thought we were hanging out. But okay. I'm glad I did.
You'd be surprised how many people are fearful of this. They're like, oh my God, I'm going to get this wrong. I'm like, there's no wrong answer.
Especially this next part coming up, because we have our BRAP segment, our rapid fire questions. Okay.
It's not like a pop quiz, right?
No.
Okay, right. Okay.
Just pick. We're going to give you some options.
That I'll fail, because I can't think like that.
No, we're just going to give you some options, and you just pick what you like better or the best.
Okay. Don't try and trick me. I've grown to trust you, so don't break my trust now. Let's go.
All
right. We'll keep it very easy, very light at first.
I'm teasing. Let's go.
But I think you're going to be very,
You'll be fine.
I don't think
now you guys are worried. No. It's
okay. Let me just get into it.
Let's go. Let's do it.
All right. Magneto or Professor X?
Professor X.
The Falcon or War Machine?
Hard. War Machine. Falcon. Shit. I don't know. Oh, Falcon.
Okay.
Teen Titans or X-Men?
X-Men.
The Wire or Breaking Bad?
The Wire.
What's your favorite SRK film?
Kabikushi Kabigam.
All right. Luke Cage or Black Panther?
Oh, shut up, man. I don't know. In what context? TV, film,
Whatever.
comics.
Whatever. You can choose
Whatever
one
helps
from
your
the comics.
answer.
Yeah.
Black Panther. Black Panther.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
There we go.
What's your favorite Pakistani food or snack and why?
Oh my gosh. I like dosa, which is something that my mom's make. It's like a little ricey pancake with some like tasty potatoes inside, and you have it with dal and you have it with other stuff. It's like my favorite breakfast food. And my mom makes it really nice in a very specific way. And that's why I like it.
Excellent.
All right. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Oh God. I grew up on way too much Star Trek for it to not be Star Trek. It has to be Star Trek. But also I love Star Wars, so I don't know. I'm out here trying to get work, guys. Come on. Give me
right. No, I feel that one. I'm never answering that question again. In fact, like, nah, I love them all.
I love them all. In the episode of Miss Marvel where the clandestines were searching for the bangle in the cave, was that a Kree arm or somebody else?
You know I can't talk about that. You spicy folks. No.
Had to have one spicy one in there.
All right. Have you seen RRR and what did you think?
I haven't seen it yet. I've been working
3 hours.
so much. Yeah. I haven't seen it yet. It's on my list. I will see it as soon as I can.
I'm in love.
Yeah, it's like one of the best things he's ever seen.
Oh my God.
Bold.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay. Noted.
Yes.
I will come back to you on that once I've watched it and be like, are you okay? Or maybe I'll be like, you were right. Let's see what happens.
Please let me know. Okay.
In any medium, what character's death hurt you the most?
Any medium, what character's death hurt me the most?
Think things like Mufasa from Lion King or Joffrey from Game of Thrones. Maybe you're really happy about that, Alice.
I don't know if it hurt me the most.
Yeah.
Gosh, my mind's got completely blank thinking about that. I'm just thinking about kind of really tragic deaths.
We could do both ways, make it easier. It's tragic where you're like so sad or even celebrated that finally they got killed.
Vasquez from Aliens.
Yes. That's yeah, fantastic. I think it's not. I don't know if it counts as a death, but like when Murphy gets like obliterated in RoboCop,
Oh God, yeah.
like how visceral that feels.
No, that
to
is
me.
Jesus.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
That movie
And
is
also,
a lot.
Yeah, but I think it's the arc back to self is really interesting, and also so funny. Like he's so great.
Yes,
That movie is so great.
So great.
That's a death that really messed with me. Not messed with me, but I just have like a sense memory about it. I don't know why I'm blanking on this question. Let's come back to it. If I come up with something in the meantime, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Just a couple more to go.
Yep. Who is your first geek crush?
The Preacher.
Oh my God.
What's wrong with that? He's a sexy guy.
No, I mean he's so sexy.
And
He
I
told
also
off
mean
white
that, like,
supremacists, so you
specifically
know.
from the comic.
Yeah. No. Look. That panel of him screaming on the white dude about why is it always the worst of your people who are, talk about their supremacists are,
Yeah.
What's not to crush on?
yeah, that's like iconic life for me. So yeah,
But then
You just couldn't
also,
believe it.
that's what I came.
I just never heard. We've never heard
from
that-
my guts.
That's a first. That's just a first, and I love
Specifically,
it.
like my first nerd crush from was like, I felt like I was reading like a naughty little book in the library. I was like, this guy is so attractive. Oh god,
He's so hot. God.
Oh God, that's
also
the
Wolverine.
first.
Also Wolverine. Like, let's be real.
You
All
love
right,
the savages.
I'm gonna give you a gaming one: Sonic the Hedgehog or Super Mario.
Super Mario.
Mm.
It's too fast. He's running around too fast, Sonic. Like I love it, but like, I can't stop. You're running as fast as my brain runs. I can't be dealing with this. I get like overwhelmed by like the sensory overload of Sonic, I think. But no, for me it was always Super Mario.
Okay.
All right. And if you could have any one superpower, what would it be?
To stop time.
Mm.
Sometimes
Any-
I pause,
Just for the pause? I was going to ask you
Just
any
for
real
the
reason.
pause. No, I don't want to do anything weird. I just want to stop time for a minute and sit. Or I feel like, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I just feel like everything just everything's going so fast. Like life is going faster than I ever imagined it would. And I think, sorry, I knew I'd be earnest again, but like with stopping time also, like I remember really feeling like, talking about being a kid in the library, I think because we've been talking about it so much that my brain's there, of like, man, there's no way I could ever read everything in this building. There's no way. Like imagine if you could just stop time and you could consume all that art and just enjoy it and lavish in it. Yeah, I think I always want to stop time. Yeah.
I have one bonus for you because I know that you're really looking into directing next. Are there any particular genres that you really, really want to sink your teeth into?
I definitely think I want to stay in kind of the genre space in terms of science fiction.
Yeah.
That's always going to be in my heart, whether that's like kind of what the scale of that is and what kind of how close to a ground it is. Because I quite like things that are just to the left of our world that feel like this could happen. That's something that I really love. And I also like, maybe there's some horror in me down the line, you know, the little girl who loved it is kind of whispering to me and calling to me. Maybe there's some horror in me too. So yeah, I think but for the time being, some elements of magical realism, some elements of science fiction, this kind of genre just skewed to the left of our world is what I'm chasing.
That's your bag. Got it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Also, like an Alien reboot, man. I'm in. Like, let me work on an Alien reboot. Like, let me be part of that. Not even a reboot, just that feeling of when I watched Alien. I was like, oh my god, I'm watching. Something's happening to me. Like, Also, Ripley for another crush. Like, also my dog is named Ripley.
Oh,
I just love that movie and I love that character. But not a reboot. But I just guess I mean like that. If I could ever make something that has that kind of visceral feeling to it, I'd die a lucky woman, I think.
No, I like. Did you? I mean, those are childhood memories. Like my dad took me to see RoboCop, but my mom took me to see Aliens, and I walked out of the first Alien at my friend's house when the thing bust out of his stomach. I was like, all right, I'm good. And then I never saw that movie until I was grown. But I saw Aliens, you know, at like 10 years old, and I was just like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And my mom loved it, and we're just sitting in this and Ripley was one of my first geek crushes. Like, yeah.
I mean, come on.
End of story. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh. And by the way, we saw a lot of your favorite movie references within Miss Marvel. Okay, like we saw the RoboCop references. We saw all of that. We got it.
Yes.
You're watching. Yes. Yeah. A lot of my teen loves were in that. In terms of when I did go through like, what are these feelings? And like teen high school things started being of interest to me. I kind of did things backwards. I was like, yeah, RoboCop and Alien. And then I was like, no, I do like 10 Things I Hate About You. So I kind of went through that journey in a weird way.
Oh, Mean Girls is one of my all-time, like, oh my God.
It's one of the best. It's like our Christmas movie.
Yes. Like, that made me love, what's her name from 30 Rock and everything.
Amy Poehler.
Yes. Oh my God. No, not Amy.
Who am I thinking of?
Oh, the one that wrote?
Yes, the brunette.
Tina Fey.
Tina Fey, yes.
Yeah. Well, that gang, that generation of.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just outstanding.
Even. Yeah.
Yeah, that movie's perfect.
It is. Yeah.
Well,
what a pleasure. What a delight.
Bisha, you are a pleasure and delight because you have wrapped up your interview with For All Nerds. Thank you so much. Like, honestly, we had a fantastic time with you. So
thank you so much for having me. You
appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah. No, absolutely my pleasure. Next time I make something, let's do it again.
Oh, yes. Anytime.
Before you go, can you please let everyone know where they can find you online or otherwise, and anything that you want to plug?
Don't find me. Don't come find me.
Or don't find
come looking. Do not look.
What if I want to give you money?
Don't give me money. Keep it. You need it. It's fine. Don't look for me. I don't want to be found. I told you I want to stop time. I don't know, internet, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a quick Google, people find me. But instead of coming to find me, hang out with you guys, buy your stuff, support you too. That's what I would say to people listening. I need that T-shirt. I need one of your T-shirts. For sure.
We'll send it to you.
We're going to send you a whole pack. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You don't even have to worry about that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. It's so good. It's so good. I'm not reading out. I can't be doing that.
All right, folks. This has been an interview with Bisha K. Ali. We'll be back with more Views from the 616.